Good evening, Mavericks. Thank you, students and families, for joining us this evening for our campus session that is focused on the Fall 2020 academic experience. We are excited that the fall semester is almost here and that many of you will be returning to campus to continue your pursuit of your degree. Our campus team has been working really hard this summer to prepare for our new normal in the midst of the pandemic. We have tried to provide students options to meet your needs with different modes of modality and instruction. And I'm very pleased this evening to have many of my colleagues here with us this evening in order to help answer your questions for tonight. So to get things started, just a little bit about tonight's event. Our student and family listening series, this is our first of 3 sessions. Our first session tonight is focused on the academic experience. Our second session will be hosted on August 4th and will be focused on campus health and safety. Our third session will be on student life and it will be focused on August 6th. There are other college-specific learning sessions that will be available to you, so look out for emails from your college deans and when those will be hosted. So for tonight, we will be elaborating a lot on our fall plans and the different types of things that will be happening on campus. We will be able to explain some of the details of the summer as we have been able to prepare tremendously for your return to campus. We have utilized a lot of student surveys. We have been meeting with our students and they provided wonderful insight into what your preferences are, and we've tried really hard to provide you a lot of different options. So tonight I will be moderating your questions, but I will be asking my colleagues to help answer those. As we move through our plan to make our campus safe and secure, we will be focused on our guiding principles. The health and well-being of our campus has been some of our most important things that we have been discussing and trying to prepare campus with safety and health safety measures in place. We realize that with the pandemic, it has been a very fluid and responsive plan that is going to have to be in effect, given the nature and the changes of the pandemic and how we are going to respond on our campus community to protect our students. We have also done this in a 3-phased approach. So our phase has been that we have been having essential workers on our campus for some time to prepare campus and to keep our research labs and facilities open and available. We are moving into our phase 2, where we start bringing additional faculty and staff back to campus to gear up for our fall semester, with our third phase that will be beginning in mid-August, right before your return. We also are very particular in our alignment of our plan and how we have been reviewing and working with the State of Governor's Office and their executive orders, his Texas Task Force, the Strike Force Task Force, as well as the CDC and the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board and UT system that governs the University of Texas at Arlington. To kick things off, I would like to show you a quick video that will talk a little bit about campus safety and some of the things that we will be looking forward for our students as we begin the fall semester.
When the Maverick community returns to campus this fall, our normal is, by necessity, going to be different than what we're used to. But one thing that will endure, no matter what, UTA is a community that cares, and we will continue looking out for health, safety, and well-being of our fellow Mavericks. Anyone on campus must wear a face mask or covering while in campus buildings and anywhere on campus where social distancing measures are difficult to maintain.
If an individual on campus is not wearing a face covering, please do not contact the UTA Police Department, as they are not responsible for enforcing the face covering policy. Respectfully inform the individual of UTA's policy. If the individual refuses to wear a mask or covering, they may be asked to leave the area. If an ongoing violation of the policy persists, faculty and staff should contact their immediate supervisor. Students should be referred to the Office of Community Standards.
Masks are not required in private offices, while alone in labs, or in residence hall rooms or apartments. While in dining services areas such as Connection Cafe, masks must be worn until you're ready to begin eating. Face masks and coverings should cover your nose and mouth and fit snugly around your face. Cloth coverings should be washed daily. Face masks and coverings do not eliminate the need for social distancing, so remember, stay at least 6 feet from other people. Be respectful of others in shared enclosed spaces by limiting entry when the space is full. Elevator occupancy will be limited. Please follow instructional signs accordingly and take the stairs whenever possible. Wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, especially after coughing or sneezing, or if you've touched a shared surface with exposed hands. If soap and water aren't readily available, use hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol. Avoid touching your face at all times. Monitor yourself for symptoms of coronavirus each day before coming to campus. If you exhibit any of these symptoms, self-isolate and do not come to campus. If you have symptoms, consult your healthcare provider for testing consideration. Students, you can call health services to make an appointment. Employees, you should contact your primary care provider. If you test positive for COVID-19, self-isolate. Anyone who has been exposed to someone who has recently tested positive for COVID-19 should also self-quarantine. Please report using the personal diagnosis or close contact form, which can be found on our website at uta.edu/coronavirus. UTA is working diligently to keep our campus safe for our community, including thorough, frequent cleaning and disinfecting measures. Disinfecting supplies will also be made available for general use, so please take care and wipe down those shared surfaces after you use them. Remember, we are all in this together. Through socially responsible conduct, we will keep our community healthy and strong.
So to get started on our list of presenters, I would like to welcome Dr. Pranesh Ashwath, our Interim Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs. Dr. Ashwath has been an integral part of our campus planning and coming back to campus and overseeing the aspects of our academic plans. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Dr. Ashwath.
Thank you so very much, Lisa. And thank you all for being here this evening to spend a little bit of time with us discussing our plans for the fall reopening. Let me give you a context for what has happened over the last 4 months. We put together a team in late April, and the team included about 100 people from various different parts of campus, including people from facilities, student affairs, faculty, administrators, and everyone that supports the institution internally in the operational side of it, to determine what was the best way to reopen campus in the fall. We had numerous meetings, probably weekly, about 3 or 4 different meetings for multiple hours, kind of going through the details of trying to understand individual needs, trying to understand the pedagogy of courses, and trying to understand what are the challenges associated with reopening a campus in the midst of a pandemic. So we took health and safety of our students, faculty, and staff as the #1 priority. With that in mind, we tried to also look at individual courses. We had a team that focused primarily on curricular issues and classroom scheduling, and Dr. Maria Corsia will be talking about that in more detail. But the primary focus around this was to look at the pedagogy of the class. Is the class easily transition to an online modality, or does it require face-to-face interaction? For example, there are classes in theater, in music, in art, and there are also classes, for example, laboratory classes that require a face-to-face component in order to achieve the learning outcomes at the course. So when we recognized all of these complexities, we really focused on trying to make that experience as safe and healthy as possible. So we introduced into that social distancing, classroom analysis. We did analysis of every single classroom on campus and determined which classrooms could be rearranged, could be restructured so that we could have social distancing, and course, with masks being mandatory, we also wanted to have an additional layer of safety by having social distancing and making sure all of the facilities around the classrooms are also disinfected. The faculty teaching preference was also taken into account. There were many faculty who also have immune suppression issues, so we wanted to make sure that our faculty who had these issues were also accommodated. But the most important thing on face-to-face classes was to make sure that these class sizes were relatively small and that we were able to keep students socially separated. The next slide, please. Yeah, the key things to take away from this is that we wanted to minimize the extent of disruption that would likely occur. So if you recollect, most students actually signed up for classes in early April. Fall registration started on April 6th and continued later. And so what we did was to make sure that our academic calendar did not change. Our start and end dates of the term have not changed. And so overall, that remains fixed. And we tried our best to make sure that the schedule of classes also didn't change whenever possible. But in order to accommodate as many face-to-face classes as possible, maintaining social distancing, keeping the class sizes small, we had to incorporate additional times. So there are some additional classes that are scheduled in the evenings and weekends as well. And the third piece of it was we also recognized that Thanksgiving time is around the time when the flu season rolls in. So the additional problem with COVID-19 and the flu complicates matters significantly. And the fact that many students go home for Thanksgiving and are in contact with larger numbers of people also increases the likelihood of possible infection coming to campus. So in order to minimize any potential impact of that, what we did was we want to make sure that no face-to-face classes would occur after Thanksgiving. So those faculty who decided to have more classes after Thanksgiving are doing that in an online modality. The final exam schedule remains on track with the way it was published, and so that is not going to change, except for a few special cases where faculty specifically have assigned exams that occur perhaps at a time before the normally assigned time around the Thanksgiving area. But all of this is clearly laid out in the syllabi. The syllabi is laying out the specifics of the different types of modality of classes, the expectations of the meeting times on campus for those classes that are face-to-face, as well as the expectations of what students have to do in a online class as well. The next slide, please. Also want to spend a little bit of time to talk about classroom safety. One thing to keep in mind that safety of everybody is a shared responsibility. And that said, we also wanted to make sure that classrooms were designed in a way to minimize physical contact between students and to maintain a minimum of 6 feet distance between students. So in most cases, classroom capacity was reduced to about 25 to 34% of original capacity in order to maintain the social distancing. The second piece of it was to make sure that we provided the supplies required in a classroom so that students who came into a class could wipe down their spaces and ensure that there's no cross-contamination between previous class and the current class. The third piece of it is we have had a campaign going, and as you saw in the little video that Dr. Lisa Nagy showed a little bit earlier, face coverings have been shown, demonstrated time and time again to be a very important factor in minimizing the spread. So it's a shared responsibility. The faculty have made a commitment. Our students in the survey have also made a commitment saying that this is an important piece of returning to campus. And we are very hopeful that all students will be compliant with this and that is essentially going to make the campus a much safer place. We have also spent a lot of time and effort to put signage across the entire campus, emphasizing the importance of social distancing, safety, hand washing, mask wearing, and so forth, as well as markings on elevators and so forth. So if more than one student enters an elevator, they know exactly where to go. And so we have made all of these special precautions with a special emphasis to make sure that students have a minimal chance of getting infected when they're physically on campus. If there are any students who need special accommodations, we have ability to provide that. And we have also taken special care for those students who are unable to come to campus for any special needs, special considerations to find alternate classes for them so that they can take most of their classes in an online modality. With that, I will turn it back to Lisa to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Ashwath. Our next presenter is Dr. Maria Martinez Cosio, Associate Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs. She will be talking a little bit about the different types of instruction modality that will be taught this fall.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're excited to share this information with you, and please keep posting your questions in the chat so we can respond. So we worked very hard with all of the colleges to try to assess how we can deliver a mix of face-to-face classes as well as hybrid and online courses. We want to be sure that students have options, but as Dr. Aswat mentioned, safety is our #1 concern. Could we go to the next slide, please? So we have instruction modalities that are available. They're live in MyMav that show students the options they have for their courses. The way that we went through this process was to identify those courses that require a face-to-face component. Labs, studios, there are some courses where it's just very difficult to figure out an online option for teaching those courses. So we went through, identify those courses, and then next we asked the colleges to provide us with hybrid courses, and then lastly, online courses. So we have established this process in partnership with the colleges to be sure that, again, we provide students with as many options as possible. We also did some surveys and asked students in terms of, what do they want to see? The majority of students at the beginning wanted to come for face-to-face classes, so we try to respond to that. And faculty, again, are eager to have our students back in a safe mode. We've also engaged in a variety of training for our faculty to be sure that they're using best practices, that our courses are as high quality as they were face-to-face for those that are teaching a hybrid modality or online. So this also includes adding new technology to classrooms. We're equipping an additional classrooms with Echo 360. We've added some computers to classrooms, trying to, again, to be sure that we have all of the technology the faculty need to teach these courses. We've also had, dozens of training sessions. Our large ones were 2 boot camps that faculty have gone through. We probably have close to 200 faculty, and Sarah will talk a little bit about that have gone through training to be sure that they understand how to use the variety of tools that we have available, including Canvas and Teams. Many of our students are already familiar with that, but we want to be sure that we're using every feature in those tools to ensure that students feel engaged, that they feel they can communicate with their faculty effectively, and also access all of the other resources, including student support services through those tools. The exams, we're in the process right now of identifying spaces where we can have students engage in exams that are pencil and paper, as well as computer-based exams where those students need to come to campus for those exams before the Thanksgiving break. Colleges have been very diligent in trying to identify which courses those may be where students need to have an exam that's pencil and paper or computer-based. We also are ensuring that we have the proctoring technology for those exams. And all of that information, as Dr. Aswath mentioned, will be indicated on the syllabus. Could we go to the next slide? Instructor availability. So our faculty, like everybody else, is concerned about safety. We've worked very hard at rolling out and sharing with them all of the practices that we have to ensure that the environment in which they will be teaching our students is safe. So our faculty are very committed to supporting our students. They continue to do that. Many of them are engaging with our students already via email and other ways. We've encouraged the departments to communicate with their majors. And we encourage you students, if you're not hearing from your department, to reach out to them and post your questions to them. We're using Teams quite a bit to communicate with classmates, for students to communicate with their classmates and instructors. We have a number of groups that are formed through Teams where students are engaging with each other already. One piece where we'll have, we're working with the departments closely is ensuring that there's office hours where students can access faculty and advisors, you know, and I think Ashley will talk a little bit about that later, to ensure that the students have access to both a face-to-face option, but also most of it will be offered virtually. So students can access their faculty fairly easily. Also, in terms of advisors for graduate students. We use a number of tools to ensure that instructors are engaging with their students. You'll see the faculty take a more active role, although many of them already use this. Some of the tools, including Civitas, to recognize students, to encourage students, to let them know that they're missed if they've missed class. So students should expect more communication from their faculty in that way. Part of our tools also allow us to bolster, if you will, the instructional content, what we offer in our courses, by now having the opportunity to pull in guest lecturers from around the globe. So some of our faculty have talked about having people address the class on topics that are relevant to the course, where, you know, you used to, if it was a face-to-face course, you often would need to depend on bringing somebody in that is face-to-face. Now that we're doing a hybrid and online modalities for some of these courses, there's more opportunities to bring in these experts from around the world. Could I have the next slide, please? So students that are who test positive for COVID-19, there's protocols available on the webpage that can indicate, you know, the steps for students to notify the university. There's a contact form that we ask everybody to fill out so we can begin contact tracing. So students will be offered options to continue their coursework while they're in isolation or quarantine. We've also asked the departments to review their plans to be sure that faculty are available should we have the unfortunate circumstance where a faculty member falls ill. Who will take over the class, or what are those measures that will need to be instituted to be sure the students are not impacted negatively by that absence as we wait for that faculty member to get well and receive the treatment that they receive. Individual comfort levels based on personal and health and safety. So faculty again have collaborated on the modality of instruction offered, and all that information is available in MyMav. You'll see a code in MyMav that will say, the first actually piece that you'll see are kind of the global definitions. So it'll say hybrid, online, face-to-face, and underneath it, it'll have the specifics of the type of modality. So it'll say hybrid 1, hybrid 2, hybrid 3, and I can share with you, it's also available on the website under our course explanations or definitions, what those modalities mean, so students can come to an understanding of where they need to be. For example, with that classmate once a week, will they meet twice a week? Or do students rotate through that course? So only half attend one day and the other half attend the other way. All of those details will be available in the syllabus. And finally, our advisors have been working overtime, trying to be sure that they're responding to students. Keep reaching out to them and make sure that you do consult with them to be sure that you've chosen the right options in terms of the mix of courses that you plan to take. So I think we have Ashley Ferguson is next.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Maria Cosio. Yes, our next presenter is actually Dr. Ashley Ferguson, Associate Vice Provost for Student Success. And Ashley's going to be speaking with us this evening about classroom support and technology resources for our students.
Thank you, Vice President Nagy. I appreciate it. Okay, so we are going to talk a little bit about classroom support. And quickly before I get to that, Maria did mention advising. And so I wanted to just quickly share that, yes, most academic advising for the fall will be virtual. However, there may be some departments that make some face-to-face offerings available. And so you'll just want to check with your home department on that. Okay, so in terms of classroom support, the university is open, and that means that our services are available to you. And I want to remind everybody that there is a student services guide on the coronavirus UTA's coronavirus website, and there you can learn about the various resources available to students and what their hours are and how you can find them. Next slide, please. There are also many technology resources available. Partners like our university libraries and our Office of Information Technology have all been working very hard to ensure that students have what they need. If you are somebody that might benefit from checking out technology, perhaps you don't have access to technology and you might need to rent a laptop, for example, from the university or get hotspot internet access. That is something that you can obtain through the university libraries, and so we encourage you to contact them. We also want to share that campus wireless coverage has been enhanced across the campus leading up to the fall semester, and that does include in high traffic outdoor areas, and so there's going to be lots of good connection for you to be able to study between classes, or perhaps even be on campus doing your online courses or hybrid courses. We've also refitted and redesigned study spaces and computer labs to ensure that social distancing can occur. I do want to encourage our students to check out uta.edu/remote for tech assistance. Here you can find everything from information on the Office of Information Technology help desk to tips for using Teams and for being a successful online learner. If you're going to be taking online courses, you really have to be very mindful and deliberate about thinking about how you're going to manage your time. It's different than face-to-face courses, and so that's something that you want to be mindful of, and on uta.edu/remote there are some tips for you to think about that. Next slide, please. Okay, UT Arlington's academic support functions will continue to be available throughout the fall. The Academic Success Center and the Ideas Center are going to be operating primarily virtually in the fall. And the drop-in and appointment-based tutoring, the mentoring services, and supplemental instruction services can be accessed using the links that you see listed on this slide. These centers will accommodate requests for face-to-face services on a case-by-case basis, and we will ensure that socially distant rooms are booked and things like that. But the services will primarily be offered virtually, but they are open for business and have been and will continue to be. Students, if you find along the way, whether that's now, 3 months from now, a year from now, anytime that you're facing a barrier to your success or finding a situation that might prevent you from continuing your education, please reach out to the Student Success Help Desk at studentsuccess@uta.edu, and we do have staff that check that email, and they will be glad to assist you, and we will connect you with the right services and solutions for you. We don't want you to solve your problems in isolation. We are a community that cares, and we want to help you solve those issues as you encounter them. Next slide, please. And we also want to talk to you about Canvas support. So all students really need to familiarize themselves with Canvas. This is our learning management system for the campus, and hopefully most of you already are familiar. But if you're not, especially if it's going to be your first time taking online or hybrid courses, you definitely want to be familiar with Canvas because you will likely interact with it at some point. So there's many resources available to learn how to use Canvas, such as an onboarding tutorial. So this sort of student orientation course will be your first introduction to Canvas if you are new to it. There's also guides that get into more depth and detail, even if you've used it before, that you may want to look at. And so that would be these Canvas tutorials that are referenced. And then there's also phone and online chat support for using Canvas. And all of this information, again, can be accessed at uta.edu/remote. And I am going to turn it back over to Vice President Nagy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ferguson. That concludes the presentation portion for us tonight. Again, we will be have future sessions coming up in campus health and safety, student life. Also, information will be sent to all students about completing COVID training as you come back to campus and how to keep yourself safe while you are here on campus, and that will be done through Canvas. You can also keep up and stay updated with all things related to the coronavirus at uta.edu/coronavirus or hashtag MavsBack2020. We're now going to move into our question and answer portion of the session. You may ask questions by clicking on the Q&A button on your screen. Given our limited time, we will be prioritizing our questions on the academic issues that are asked. But don't worry, if we don't get to your question answered tonight, we will be posting answers on our COVID website on the student FAQ page. So this helps us culminate a lot of questions in order to be able to share them with all of our students and our families who are even unable to be here tonight. So I'd like to kick it off. Dr. Paul Kittle will be our moderator for our questions this evening. Paul, what are our first questions?
Hi, Lisa. Thank you for that. Our first question is actually related to the recent order out of Tarrant County related to the delay of in-person instruction. And the student wanted to know if that order from Tarrant County will impact classes at UTA or the start of the academic calendar.
So that's a great question, and I'll answer that really quickly. So UT Arlington actually falls under the guidance because we're a state agency under the governor's orders. And so currently the governor has not given any orders that institutions of higher education would be closed or delay or go all online remote at the beginning of the fall semester. So at this time, we will be continue to stay with our current plan, which is offering our students the option of online, hybrid, and or face-to-face courses. That could change if the governor's orders change, as we've all been trying to be reactive as we get new guidance from that. But as of now, we will follow whatever the governor's office indicates that we should.
All right, thank you. Our next question comes in and it's related to online classes. The student is asking, am I able to take all of my classes online in the fall and not fall behind academically?
Yeah. Do you want me to take that, Lisa?
Sure, Dr. Ashwell, thank you.
You know, the pedagogy of instruction in an online class is no different than what we offer in a face-to-face class. We provide, quite a bit of additional support services, all our supplementary instruction and other kind of student support services are also available online. So in that context, there should be no difference in terms of the content being offered to students in a face-to-face or an online modality. And the key question is for you to check with your advisor to make sure that the classes that you need to enroll in are also available in an online modality so that you don't have a disruption in your schedule. If it turns out that all the classes that you need are not available, then your advisor will work with you to find alternate classes to make sure that you don't fall behind. So the short answer to your question is yes, you can continue forward, and I don't anticipate that there is any reason for you to fall behind by taking them in an online modality.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Ashwell. Our next question is actually about veteran students. A student asked, will GI Bill students get full traditional school rates or online school rates each month since the classes will be online due to COVID-19?
So I will ask Dr. Troy Johnson, who is our Vice President of Enrollment Management, who is on with us this evening to answer that question. Dr. Johnson?
Hi, Lisa and Paul. Thanks very much. That's a really great question. And the quick answer is absolutely. If a